Welcome to the Shark Bite Show, where we dive into the stories of our members, coaches, friends, and family of Shark Bite Fitness and Nutrition. All right, let's roll.
All right, guys. Today I've got my friends Ruby George and Mather Wiswall. They're an amazing brother-sister team, and they run the Florida Grid League, a semi-professional sports league encompassing the state of Florida. They're two of the most driven people I've ever met. I personally have learned a lot from each of them, and the Florida fitness community is lucky they decided to move down here. So, guys, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. I was really excited about this one. I thought it was going to be good. So to start off, who are the two of you? Ruby, you go first because people see Mather more often. So.
Okay, I am Mather's sister. That's been my name since high school. Mather's sister. I'm 2 years younger, and I'm the director of operations for Florida Grid League. I actually live in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, so I commute to the matches.
That's something I think a lot of people don't know, so that's pretty cool. And you over there, who are you?
My name, Mather Wiswall, Ruby's brother, and in the FDL side of things, I am the commissioner, so currently head of competition and marketing. So that side of the business is where my focus is.
Cool. And the two of you are originally from the Pennsylvania area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I currently live in a house up the street from where we grew up.
Oh, that's super cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What got you guys to Florida? How did the Florida Grid League come from some Pennsylvania people?
Well, the short story is we were running a business in Philadelphia, and then part of which was involved in CrossFit competitions. Do you know the answer to this, by the way? I'm just curious.
I know portions of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we love CrossFit. I'm a big sports fan. I'm Philadelphia through and through. So, the big four I've always followed and been really involved in. And so we always kind of had our eye, not always, but we got involved with people that originally had their eye on melding the two concepts of team sports and CrossFit together. And so we had, a little bit of event experience in the CrossFit realm, but a lot of event experience outside the CrossFit realm, and saw this meld as a big opportunity and started developing our own thing with some partners in Philadelphia that was actually similar to the concept of Grid. And then we heard about Grid. Tony came out with this thing, and our initial instinct was, well, we're kind of done because he's doing this. He's got a lot more power. He's a lot better. He's got a better vision for it. And then we're like, well, maybe we can get involved. And so we started going down those steps. We went to the initial meeting in Dallas, the first meeting ever about the sport of Grid. And we wanted to run the Philadelphia team of the sport of Grid. And there was another group out of Philadelphia that applied and got the Philadelphia team in the sport of Grid, in the initial version of Grid. And so we applied for Chicago next, and then we were looking at Miami as like an alternative. And of course, Miami was the one that ended up coming through, and I moved down to make it happen.
Right, and that was the Miami Surge,
ended up
right?
here. Yeah, that was the Miami Surge, and that's how I got down here and really got sucked into the Florida fitness market. I mean, it's very, very different than Philadelphia's, and it's incredible. I mean, there's the size, the significance, the diversity, everything you can think of. Like, Tampa fitness market is very different than the Miami fitness market, but it's all encompassed in Florida. So it's a huge beast that I really enjoy being involved with. Of course, Ruby has her hands on all of it from Philadelphia, but that's how we ended up with Florida as our primary focus.
And after the surge, there was the question of, should we move? Like, should Mather come home? Should we stick with Florida? And Mather was just adamant about, yes, we got to stick with Florida. It's where he wanted to be. And, we had put down roots in Florida with Grid, so it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. So Ruby, was that ever a discussion on your end in kind of the opposite direction, moving to Florida to make it structurally easier?
Yeah, my then boyfriend didn't want to move. And so we agreed that, the surge was a risk. All of this has been a risk. And so he was not really looking to move. And then we ended up getting married and having kids and buying a house. And so kind of stuck here, which is fine. I mean, I don't feel like there's any disadvantage to it, except that I don't get to go in person and like see people and experience the events very much. So I have to watch at home a lot or rely on Mather to tell me how much fun everybody's having, because otherwise I'm just at my computer and I don't get to feel it much. But
well, I'll tell you what, I regularly forget that you don't live down here. Especially as matches are going on, I forget that you're on the other side of the country, like, because we're talking through every one of the events.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you seem to know what's going on in the same room I'm in most of the time. So I forget that all the time.
Like the As One tournament was the most that I did this, but even during matches, I would say like, okay, everybody else take care of the kids. I've got my phone, I've got my iPad, I've got my computer, and I'm just like going, like answering staff questions and putting the score on the computer or on the website, and just, it's fun. It's like being a pilot or a control center or something.
That's what I think of. I think of you like in the space in Houston for the spaceships, like controlling everything going on. That's what I think of.
Yeah. I enjoy that part of it, but I'm so excited to come to matches in person this year. I can't wait.
Yeah, because I mean, it is fun to watch them, but I don't think anything can really compare to the feeling of like being in the room as it's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And getting to see the athletes and, talk to the people that like meet the people that I talk to all the time. I've never met some of our staff that we work with all the time. So it'll be really fun.
Well, so this is technically a fitness podcast, so I have to ask, you're both like extremely busy people. Like, do you still find time to work out?
Mather more than me. My level of working out went way down when I had my first son. I had a C-section, so it took me a really long time to come back from that. And then I got into a good groove again and, was working out. We have a home gym, which was super handy for the pandemic. And then I had my second son and I just have not found the time. I also got a full-time job at the beginning of the pandemic because my husband needed to find a new job. And so like this opportunity came up at the exact right time. And so I'm working full-time somewhere else. And so my grid time is mostly like early in the morning, kind of stolen moments throughout the day, and then at night. And that's I have my kids otherwise. So I'm trying to find time to work out. It's really important to me. It's something that's going to happen eventually, but it doesn't happen a lot right now.
Hey, I've seen video of you working out. I've seen it, so I know it exists.
It happens. It's just not as often as I would like.
Mather, what about you?
I went through my competitive phase of CrossFit where I wanted to, maximize my ability, I guess, strength wise and everything else, and was actually on the fringe of being competitive. Like I was on the alternate for regionals for the team that went to regionals at one point, believe it or not.
I did not know that. That makes all my intermediate jokes way funnier. Okay.
Well, to be fair, the people going to regionals wouldn't even be considered intermediate at that time because it was 10 years ago.
Right.
But I was very focused on my physical performance, so I went through that phase of fitness, and I'm definitely not in that phase anymore. Once every 2-3 years, I get dragged into doing a competition, and, we'll relive that for a couple of weeks prior to the competition. And it's fun, but then I can't wait to not be doing it right after that because it takes a lot of focus and effort, and I just have other applications. But to get back to your question, yes, fitness is really important to me. It's part of what we do. It allows me to do what I do for the Florida Grid League and for, my family and my girlfriend to come to fruition. The fitter I can be, the more I can have a high output, have high energy to do all those things. So it's really important from that perspective. But I do try to have fun with it too, still, and get involved with friends and things when I can, just because that helps keep it motivating and fun.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Kind of what both of you guys said, right? Like, just because you're not working out 7 times a week as hard as you can, trying to max out your lifts, I don't think that's the same thing, coming from a gym owner. I don't think that's the same thing as working out for better life. Right.
100%.
I completely understand that. Right. There were times where I used to spend 2.5 hours in the gym. That is not the case. And I don't think it'll ever be the case again for me.
Right.
But that's okay. I like it more now this way because like you said, I get to use it kind of as a catalyst for the rest of the stuff I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll say after Cody, especially, I noticed that going a week or two without getting my heart rate up, just simply getting my heart rate up, my mood would plummet. And then I would go do a 10-minute EMOM or something, and I would feel the immediate benefits. And it just became like one of those things where like, I have to do this for my relationship, for my family, for me. Like, I just have to make sure that I'm getting my heart rate up and doing something, even though it's not, I'm also injured. Like, I've got all these things going on, so I can't just go do any kind of workout. And so I'm still trying to figure out like, what are the things that I can do safely, but it's just a necessity. Like, I have to make it happen. So going out and riding the bike for 10 minutes is considered a workout for me. And I'm okay with that right now.
Yeah. I think that's really important to recognize. That is a workout, right? Like just because you're not doing what some of the grid league players are doing, that doesn't mean that you're not getting the best workout in.
My whole social media scroll is like all of these other people that are in crazy shape and doing all of the things. And, I let that sometimes affect how I think about my own fitness. But when it comes down to it, it's just a matter of staying healthy and being as healthy as I can in the circumstances that I'm in.
Right. I think it's important for me to get other people to hear that, because especially if you're in like a CrossFit or functional fitness style, like community gym, it's really easy to see the people who are doing the most and view yourself as unsuccessful if you're not doing the most. Just getting a workout in is better than not getting one in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of value in understanding where your best ability and performance lies. And so like for me, I feel like I have a much greater awareness of my genetic potential physically through my CrossFit experience, which has led to, understanding nutrition a lot better and understanding supplementation a lot better and some of the other factors that are involved with maximizing your physical ability, which also translate into other things. But, I think there's two directions about CrossFit. One is how competitive it is and how that can be a negative, but also, how do you mentally approach CrossFit for the maximum benefit? And I think the competitive aspect is really valuable, even though it's not something that I focus on now. I'm so glad that I had it because it forced me to look at all these other variables that, help to achieve an optimal physical performance, but also an optimal being. And then I can have an awareness of how they affect me through that experience. And so if somebody's just getting into the CrossFit journey or just learning things, even if they create that competition with themselves or the person next to them that's in a similar, ability level, which is one of the reasons I think Level Method is great, which is why I'm involved with it, because it defines those people for you and lets you see who's kind of in your general realm and that you can compare to. That competition drives you, you're never going to the games or whatever, but if you have that desire to maximize your performance, it just opens up all these doors of awareness that you wouldn't have otherwise because you're so driven to maximize that performance. And there's a lot of benefit in that if you never actually use it in competition even or anything. So I think it's one of the many benefits to the structure of the way CrossFit works.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, in what other realm of our life generally do we get to kind of test that or push that or see where that boundary lies and then make that boundary go further, right?
Yeah, and just to touch on this real quick, because we talked about CrossFit and how CrossFit is so great at making you a well-rounded athlete and exposing and allowing you to work on your weaknesses, which is incredibly valuable. And we talked a little bit about the value of competition. Well, grid allows you, it lowers the barrier of accelerating the height at which you can experience some of that competition. So, this doesn't exist on a great scale now, but your gym knows, being involved at an all levels version of grid allows you to take your normal physical strengths and not be inhibited by your weaknesses, and then go compete with it. You know what I mean? So you get a lot of that value of competition, and there's less barrier to entry to a higher level of competition where you just, reap even more benefits. So I think that's like way that grid really complements CrossFit in general to experience some of those like maximum benefits that it offers.
I think that's a really important point that a lot of people probably don't understand. And we're going to dive into grid a little bit deeper in a second, but if I want to test my fitness in the weightlifting realm, right? In CrossFit, I can be impeded by getting to that testable level by burpees. That could just stop my ability to prove that I can do that or test my ability to do that. In grid, you're right. Like I'm not doing burpees. It makes it very easy for me to play around on a barbell or execute some gymnastics or do something more track and field without having a hindrance that I'm not great at. That's a good point. Okay, so let's go into that then. We've done a couple podcasts on this feed with some of the Southwest Florida Sharks players, so there might be a little bit of understanding, but most people listening to this won't have inherent knowledge about it. What is grid?
Ruby, you want to take that?
My elevator pitch is grid takes some of the elements of CrossFit and other sports, puts it into a team sport like football, and packages it for entertainment like American Ninja Warrior. So it's got, the strategy of football, it's got the elements of like CrossFit, weightlifting, gymnastics, but it's meant for entertainment. So it's gonna, hook you and what's going on very quickly.
I like that one. Mather, what do you got?
Well, our kind of one-liner, and this evolves a lot as we understand people's perceptions, but our one-liner right now, which is like a boiled down version of our introductory paragraph, is the world's most equal, diverse, exciting, and captivating sport. And it's really the supporting elements that make that statement true, that make grid what it is. And there's literally thousands of them. So trying to boil it down is really difficult. But for me, the main factor about grid that makes it important in society is the fact that men and women play together on the same team. It's the first true team sport to do that, and true defining as more than 4 players on a team. And that's all good and great. It's a great quality to have, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not super exciting, it's not super fun to play, it's not super fun to watch. And so the exciting and captivating portion of it is just as significant as the portion of doing good for society in a way. But those two components are really important, and try and include both in any short description. But that's like a general overview of what it is. It doesn't really get into how it works.
That's one of the cool and challenging things about grid, because I've kind of been an ambassador for it in our area, is explaining it to others, right? And what I always try to focus on is, take a thing you like doing, like however you work out. Now let's turn that into a sport and let's make it really exciting, right? And I think that's the thing that people don't understand, right? As I say this as somebody who owned a CrossFit gym for a really long time, CrossFit competitions aren't sport. They're just working out faster than the person next to you, And that doesn't make them any less impressive. It's cool to do that, but it's not inherently sport, right? Like grid is sport. There are rules and there's strategy, and there's ways for, I'm one of the coaches, to take advantage of or be taken advantage of by the rules. Those are the things in my mind that make sport versus training,
Right. Yeah. The sport or the strategy involved with CrossFit is how to perform your workout better. And that's the restriction within it. And the rules of grid are how does your team perform better in order to, defeat the other team in a repeatable version of a race, which none of that exists in CrossFit. So it's like a very, like you said, sport version of some of the movements that are involved with CrossFit, but really some of those movements are the only similarity to what CrossFit is.
Right. And to be clear, CrossFit didn't create clean and jerks, you know?
Right, exactly.
Like these are all
This-
just body weight movements that have been done for hundreds of years. So
Yeah, it's the same association as weightlifting and CrossFit. You know, the weightlifting was doing clean and jerks and snatches way before CrossFit was. But you know, and initially people would get it confused, but and it's the same with gymnastics too. You know, there's a lot of movements that are performed in CrossFit that have been performed in gymnastics for hundreds of years. It's the same association with us. We're taking some of the movements from CrossFit, some of the movements from gymnastics, some of the movements from weightlifting, strongman, and even making our own movements and applying that in a sport, team sport form, like you said.
So before Grid took over your lives, what were you guys doing? So I know you said you were doing the event management with sports in Philly, right? Or trying to kind of veer into that CrossFit realm, right? What about before that?
So Mather went to school for design. And I went to school for English, but I didn't really use English literature. And we ended up both working at the same company, at a marketing firm. So Mather was designing and selling trade show exhibits and interior exhibits and working with clients in that way. And I came on as a project manager. And so that was our first experience working together. I only lasted about a year because I don't like having a boss. My biggest background is in serving. So I've been, bartending and serving and fine dining restaurants and catering events and stuff like that for a really long time. And that all informed my project management job. So after that, we really liked working together. Mather was kind of doing a lot of design work on the side. He started recruiting our mom, who is also a designer, to help him because he was getting too many side jobs. So then he and my mom were working together on these jobs, and I would kind of overhear them talking about sometimes like, did you invoice this person? Did I get paid for this job? And I would say, like, eventually I was just like, you guys, why don't you just let me do all of like the invoicing and, the customer relationship and that kind of stuff and make sure everything's on track. So really slowly, we just kind of, the three of us, like built this company together. Started in 2008. We did it for about 10 years, I think, before, is that right? No, it couldn't have been, but whatever. We did it for about 8 years, I think, before Grid came along. And so the three of us had this company and we were working, towards that goal. And then one of our clients asked us to, we designed their website for them. And it was the website for the CrossFit competitions that this client was planning. And they said, hey, my partner just left. Do you want to partner with me on planning these events? And we said, sure. And that's kind of like where Mather picked up the story with the events that we planned. And then we heard about Grid, and then kind of, we still have that marketing company. So we've got like a couple of loyal clients that we've been with for years and years, and still do pick up some jobs on the side sometimes. But for the most part, we shifted our focus to Grid in 2014.
Cool. And that's G-Wiz, right?
Mm-hmm. G-Wiz Marketing.
Mather needs to update his voicemail. Okay.
Does it still say that?
Yeah,
it does.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
My dad every once in a while, Dad is like, Mather needs to update his voicemail. It still says G-Wiz.
Wow, I can't believe that's never come to the surface until now. Ever.
I've been saving it for 5 years for this moment.
That does not surprise me. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to get on that one.
All right,
no,
so
now it'd be sad if you changed it.
I hope you leave it. I do. I hope 10 years from now it's still on there.
I'll be 95 and it'll still say that. Just so you'll stay happy.
So I'm not technically on the FGL staff, right? But I feel like I've been pretty intimately involved for the last couple of years, the last 5 years with how things go, right? As are most of the team owners. Now, you two embody like what I kind of view as like the partnership dream. You both have strengths and like relative weaknesses that the other one like complements perfectly. It's crazy because I don't know if I would believe it if somebody told me that, but I've seen it for half a decade now. Like I know it to be true. How did that happen? How is that possible? I love my brother. we don't cover each other's weaknesses. That's not, we just fight and accomplish nothing. How do you guys do that?
I don't know. It is kind of freaky, honestly.
It is.
We've had the polar opposites in like the strengths of our parents. You know, we've noticed it before we started working together, in that like there's certain aspects of our parents that they have strengths in that I embody, and then there's certain strengths that our parents have that she embodies, and they're the kind of the opposite. And I think that's why there's always been a natural synergy, not easily at times, but there's been a natural synergy in working together, because like the story she just said about invoicing, like, you know, it was a decent source of income for me at the time, but I was like 2-3 months behind in invoicing, and I would never, you know, follow up with clients. I just hated the money aspect of it. Like, I didn't want to keep track of it. I didn't want to have to deal with it. And that's where she thrived. So like, you know, it was a clear need that I wasn't fulfilling at that time in the company. And Ruby's like, I'll do it because that's what I'm good at, you know? So that was how it kind of like started. But for whatever reason, we just think opposite. But I think how we've grown stronger as a team is overlapping our strengths in awareness and understanding of each other's perspectives that allow those strengths to be successful. But also, you know, I've just become a better business owner overall because I've learned to take on some of those natural strengths that Ruby has by her coaching and ideas in you know, how to implement them in our companies and things like that. So it's made my output and my contribution that much better because we've got, you know, 12 years experience working together, and I've absorbed some of those natural strengths that she has, and I think hopefully vice versa. So
Definitely vice versa, but also I think we're both so, when we first started working together, our mom would say every other day, if, you know, working together starts to affect the family, then we're not going to do it anymore. It's like she said that so many times that it was okay, do you not want to work with us anymore or what? But it was, you know, it's for us, it's always been our relationship, our family first. And, you know, we get to talk to each other every day because we work together. Right. And so like, that's been awesome for our relationship. We've grown so much closer than we would have if we hadn't worked together. But part of us working together is also like, we're so committed to our own personal growth. And if we weren't, I don't know that we would be successful, because we had to work through a lot of, you know, like hurt feelings from being 10 years old and like looking up to my big brother, and he didn't want to hang out with me. And like, you know, fast forward 20 years and like that literally would be affecting our business decisions because like I would be feeling a certain way about it. And we had to like dig those out and deal with them. And it was really hard. There's definitely been some conversations that have been really, really difficult, but I am a better person overall because I dealt with that stuff and because I learned how to, you know, figure out what was actually wrong and work through it with him rather than, and, you know, I attribute a lot of that to him because he is the type of person that will ask the question, why are you so upset right now? Like, what is it underneath? We're not actually talking about, you know, the type of, I don't know, project management software we use, or like this one email that I wrote or whatever. It's what is actually going on. And he's open to hearing it also. You know, like I would get really mad at him for certain things that he wouldn't like fire back at me for. He would say like, let's talk through what's actually going on. And so it's been really helpful. And I don't know that many people have a brother. Nobody has a brother like Mather, but you know, there's just a lot about like our personalities that would have made it really, really difficult, almost impossible to work together had we not been so committed to our own relationship and to our own personal growth.
Another big difference between us is
what's that matter?
Another big difference between us is that she would bring something like this up on a podcast and I wouldn't.
Sorry.
It's all good. That's, you know, it's part of it. It's all good.
I don't think anybody can see the recording portion when you're not talking, but I can just see Mather squirming as you're talking.
I said I'm an open book. I can't help it.
Yeah.
What it sounds like you're talking about though is like a level of trust, right? Like you both trust that you care about the same end goal and you're working towards that, right? I feel like that's probably the most common issue that like partnerships come into, is that people have a want to be right, or they have a belief that even if the other person is not inherently wrong, that they don't have the best interests or the same vision and values aligned. And I remember that, you know, Mather, I met you first, obviously. And then Ruby, I legitimately thought you lived in Miami until about 6 months into the relationship. But I met you later. I remember feeling that immediately, like, you know, and what the vision and everything was back then is nowhere near what it is now. But I remember feeling you two aligned. What I mean is, like, it's much more, it's declared now, it's defined now. I think if we talked to that first conversation, Mather, sitting with you, me and Charlie at our gym, that would not be a conversation we'd have now. But I feel like the two of you were always so on board and moving in the same direction. I think that's really important. Not at one point in the last 5 years have I ever felt like you two didn't have the same, you know, short-term, mid-term, long-term goal in mind. I feel like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's times where we have to, you know, figure out what those are between us, because we have slightly different versions of that, or how we get to them, whatever. But we you know, when we set up, particularly with the Florida Grid League, we'd been through it a few times at that point. We had a business plan. We wrote it together. You know, we were completely aligned on all the aspects of it. It had those 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. And so, yeah, I think that is, you know, we set off on this path the same way, and it's gone, you know, obviously different directions than we thought it would at times, but we've been pretty aligned in how to overcome the issues that have come up.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And I kind of hinted at this earlier at the beginning, but I meant it. I've personally learned so much from both of you. I feel confident saying that, like, my business wouldn't be where it is right now had I not met you guys when I met you. Ruby, Matt, I don't even know if you know this. The amount of times I've hit up Ruby and been like, help me with this administrative task that I cannot figure out. You know, like, this is a linchpin of the business that I cannot figure out. And I know that we're going to lose a ton of money, or we're going to upset a ton of customers, or we're going to make all these issues that we shouldn't have because I'm too stupid to figure out Google Sheets. You know, and Ruby's answering me at 9 o'clock at night when I'm pretty sure she's already in bed, saying, like, this is how you do this. And administratively, Ruby, the stuff I've stolen from the Florida Grid League that you might not realize for our events, I mean, just so much better that they never would have had it otherwise. And Mather, I have learned so much about communication since I met you. Your ability to not get angry at things that should 100% make you angry is a superhuman skill. I was on a podcast that I think got released this last week, and one of our coaches, Chris, asked me about he actually asked me that, like, how do you not freak out when people are doing things that should make you freak out? And I was so mad at myself because I didn't bring you up, because I when that happens, what I do is I put on my imaginary dreadlocks and my recycled cucumber shoes, and I think, okay, like, how would Mather handle this situation?
What would Mather do? You need a bracelet.
Yeah, right. Because, bro, your ability to communicate with people, all kinds of different people, and to get a bunch of people on with different obvious goals towards a goal that everybody's happy with, towards a resolution that everybody wants, is astounding. I don't think I would have had either of those skills had I met you guys, and I'm, like, eternally grateful for that.
Mather,
Dude, that's
better.
Well, I mean, you know, first of all, that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing, part of the amazing experience of this whole thing. But you know, obviously I've learned so much from you, from, you know, being involved, our conversation. You know, we've had our, you know, 5-minute combos that turned into 1.5-hour combos about life and business and everything else. And, you know, I mentioned beforehand, like, I just sent a book to Ruby, and it's Vivid Vision. So, you know, I know that's something that we need to do in the near term.
Yeah.
And so that just exemplifies the fact that we, build from each other, and we build from the natural strengths that each other has. Because honestly, like, I think that's just a natural, but I have a lot of natural deficiencies that I have to work really hard on. But I think a natural efficiency that I have is the ability to take the hits and just keep going. And I think, and it's weird because I've actually thought about this, because I don't think about it as a unique skill, because it's just natural to me. Just like Ruby can, organize a spreadsheet like a whiz, and it's a natural thing for her. But I've thought about, like, okay, why can I do this? When I say, like, just keep a cool head, or think about what needs to happen when people are screaming at me, or clearly have their own agendas that are coming to the surface and affecting how they think or communicate. And I really attribute it to my years in construction. I had these two bosses that were super hotheads, like, scream at the drop of a hat, fire you if you did something wrong, shoot a nail gun at you, like, just, serious things. And, most people didn't make it working for them, but the people that did, they really rose up on a pedestal. And I think that experience, I did it for 6 years, and I learned how to build a house from top to bottom from them. And it was a really hard and, hard thing to get through, because it was so challenging in so many different ways. But I think that attributed to the ability just to take hits and keep going. And, when you get an interaction that really would fire a lot of people up, just to kind of be able to take a step back and I've definitely recognized how few people are affected that way since then. So I think it's a one of those skills that I'm really appreciative to have, that just kind of came naturally along with some experiences, but I think is undervalued in the grand spectrum of what's important to operate a business, but just, have whole fulfilling relationships in life. And, those fulfilling relationships, like being a part of Florida Grid League, has made me such a better person, from having people like you and Matt and Taylor and all of the team owners, Chris and Storm, and everybody has a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. Everybody's got significant accomplishments, owns businesses. There's not a team owner in the league that doesn't own multiple businesses, with the exception of maybe Chris, but he's got a full-time career and he runs a team as well. So, I think, having this collection of accomplished people that are very diverse from their perspectives and how they approach things and do things, just makes us all better. And it's a huge value to be a part of. And the NPGL was the same thing. Like, a lot of people, and I think a lot of people left that experience like that was a complete waste of time and money and everything else. But I would do it again if it left me flat broke and whatnot, because I came out of the other side of that a completely different person that will excel at, so many new things because of who I was exposed to, the experiences I went through, but really primarily who I was exposed to, and being involved with people like you and other, even sponsors now. Like, sponsors are coming up to that level of, having a really positive and influence on my personal life. And so I think that's as much the benefit of being a part of a group like this that as anything. And it's really shaped just so much, for me personally. I just went on a tangent, sorry.
Dude, we could let you go for 2 hours.
I could have kept going too. I thought of 10 things I wanted to say just now, but I was like, I'm gonna stop.
Oh man. Well, I wanted to make sure you guys heard that from me, because I'm super thankful for that. So what are some of the unexpected hurdles we've had over the years, right? Because we know them, right? But not every year, almost every year, there's been a pretty significant event that's happened like at the beginning or at the end of the season, right? What are some of those for people who maybe don't know about them and think this is just a flawlessly running ship at all times?
Hurricanes.
Yep.
The damn hurricanes.
Yeah.
Canceling matches, canceling championships.
Yeah, we had two, right?
Two hurricanes.
Yeah.
And then, we've had significant partnerships that have been really bad as far as the outcome, quote unquote bad. Wouldn't change it. It put us on the path that we're on now, and I think is an incredible path to be on. And but every year we've had to cancel significant or change significant things, because of a hurricane or a natural disaster like a pandemic. But every year we've gotten stronger, and I think that's our ability as a team, all of Florida Grid League, the team, owners, the Florida Grid League staff, but also the players too, because they've got to be mentally nimble to overcome all of these things and not be like, they don't know what the hell they're doing, blah, blah, blah. But to be able to see the bigger picture. It's a testament to the whole group, but it's more than that, a testament to the sport. The sport will live on and drive forward as long as it's given the opportunity. And all we're doing as a group is giving it that opportunity, because it needs to exist. Like, there's just too many reasons for it to exist to allow something like a hurricane or a pandemic to slow it down. And that's the reason that it's, continued to strengthen year over year, even with these significant challenges that, quite frankly, have put a lot of other similar entities right out of business,
Yeah, I was thinking about this right before we got on, right? And the As One tournament, which we did last year or this last winter, maybe couldn't have been accomplished had we not already had to learn how to do backflips because of the hurricanes and the ways that the other seasons had to be changed so drastically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ruby, I talked to you a lot during the As One tournament, right? But like, how the hell did you guys accomplish that? First off, what was that? What was that tournament?
The As One tournament was the first time that all 8 teams were together and playing and got to play each other, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a 2-day, I don't want to say it wrong. It wasn't a double elimination bracket.
It was a tournament. It was a tournament.
It was a tournament.
Everybody got to play twice, and then 4 teams got to move on to the playoffs and the championship. And so we put on 8 matches in one day, which was a god awful idea that we'll never do again. But it allowed everybody to play, and like that I think was the biggest thing that I came away with from the As One leading up to it and after it was over, was just people like really, really loved to play. There was no fans, no spectators because of COVID. And just, everybody was saying that the energy in the building was just like more so than any time they'd ever played any other way, And so it's just like, people love the sport, and it has a place in society to make people happy and better. And, all of the reasons that Mather stated before, but like, it's just fun, So, so when we started, when we had to cancel the season, which was right around this time last year, it was like super unsure. We did an online competition first, and we, had that idea like immediately, and it took us a couple of weeks to put it into motion. And by then a lot of other online competitions were happening. But we had that idea immediately because it was like, well, we got to do something, to keep people playing and talking and the energy up. And then, we were planning along the way, and all along it was kind of like, I halfway hope this doesn't happen. Like, I hope that the government shuts us down, or like something to tell us that, no, you actually can't do this, so that it wasn't our decision, that we were going to go forward. And then something, like if there was an outbreak at the As One tournament or something like that, like I would have felt personally responsible for all of those people's health. And that was really, really scary for me personally. Mm-hmm. And so just like going up to it was always kind of like, well, we don't even know if this is going to happen, but we're going to act like it's going to, and just in case it can. And it turned out to be such an awesome experience. But I was going to say, like, some of the challenges we got leading up to the As One were just, like, we had our staff set. We were like, all right, awesome. And then we lost both of our chief refs. So we had no, like, and reffing is one of the most important parts of fair play in a match. And so we were losing staff left and right. Teams were losing players left and right. And it was just, consistent challenges and challenges and challenges leading up to it. And it was just like, we're used to this. This is just what happens. Like I have this list of challenges that we've experienced since starting the Florida Grid League, because someday we're going to write a book. And so I'm keeping track of them all. And there's stuff like Mather's computer got stolen like 4 days before our first match. And, like just random stuff like that, like just should have derailed us. And we're just so used to it that we just keep going. It's like, all right, here's another one. Shift.
The one thing I want to point out related to the As One was that, and this is just a testament to who we lucked out with as team owners, but everybody just rolled with the punches, and I've been involved with businesses before where that is not the case, where, people are like, no, like, this is my objective. This is what I want. It has to be this way. But everybody's just like, we all know that we've got to be flexible to make this happen. And everybody's ability to come at it with that perspective and then, basically have that trickle down to their teams, because the players also came with that mentality. Like, look, we just want to play. We just want to go compete. We want to have fun. We want to try to win. But, the ultimate goal is to go there and compete and have a positive experience together. And because everybody was thinking that way, it was able to happen. If everybody had thought like it needs to have this type of situation, or I'm not doing it, or it needs to have this type of scenario, or I'm not doing it, it wouldn't have happened. So it was as much about the positive leadership of everybody involved at the team ownership level that made that possible.
Yeah, I think there were so many adaptations that businesses had to make as to what they did in the year 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was amazing that it happened, and that it went as flawlessly as it could have, given everything. I mean, like, I think I talked to people who were watching and they weren't aware we had any hurdles. They were like, that was a great event. I don't know what you're talking about.
How well it went, even with, very few staff, and just people were, it's pretty shocking that it went that well. But again, it was our 5th season. So, or no, this is our 5th season.
This is our 5th one. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was, it was the 4th time that we've done this. So like matches have a process, we had people there who had done it before. And so they're just continuing to teach new people how to do everything and make sure that, it went as smoothly as it did. And it wasn't because of us that it went that smooth. It was because of all of our team that was making it happen.
I want to make something very clear here. And that is that I'm able to look back now and see that as a positive experience. But, during those first of all, the week before, for whatever reason, like the hits kept coming.
Yeah.
You muted, Mather. You muted.
We want everybody to be happy to have a good experience. And when things get in the...
Oh, no.
Hold on. Is my audio changing?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're back on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so let's back that up. You said it was a positive experience looking back on it, right? But yeah, so I mean, because we want to do such a good job for everybody that's involved, that puts anything towards the event, team owners, players, everybody that's involved, anxiety rises. I literally didn't sleep for probably 4 days. Like, I was getting an hour or 2 sleep a night. And at the event itself, like almost zero sleep, so I had slept very minimal for like 5 days. And of course there were problems. Like, it wasn't, there was a lot of problems. And one of them was super crushing for me personally. And it had to do with the media. And so there was like a week hangover where it was really tough to get out of bed. Like, I couldn't get anything done. Like, functionally, it felt like I was trying to climb out of quicksand. You know what I mean? Just mentally, I was crushed. And that was one of the, I feel like I say that after a lot of events, but that was definitely the worst I had felt after an event. And so there was like, even though we were getting a ton of positive feedback, it took a really long time before I really felt like
okay, that was worth doing. All right, that was a good positive event, just because I was in such a low point, you know, physically and mentally, because of how hard that event was, you know. And I think it's important for people to know that too, because like if we just kind of say, oh yeah, it was awesome, it was great, like there was a big toll paid by everybody that was in a leadership role, and that includes team owners and everything else. And then so like for me personally, like I said, that there was a week of before I could even felt like I wanted to, you know, do anything, honestly. And then it took a while after that before I was like, okay, that was successful. But now, I mean, but the other thing I will say is, even though I felt like that, I was looking for new ways to have grit. I was like, how can we get an event as soon as possible? I don't want to wait for the next one. And it's just this weird paradox that goes on that you just can't really explain, but is a very real thing. So yeah, I think it's important to recognize that it wasn't all sunshine and roses. It was a brutal experience, but I think that's part of what 2020 was, and ultimately, you know, either learned and grew from that, or you didn't. So
I know I loved it. You know, our team personally didn't do too well. Still had a really good time. Still had a really good time the entire time. And interestingly, by far the worst, like statistically, our team has been in a season, right? If we're counting that, wins and losses, nothing but positive feedback from the players. Like just 100%. We love that. We can't wait to do that again. Can't wait to do something like that again, you know, different from our normal season. So I think that says a lot, right? Because generally a team getting their ass handed to them for an entire day doesn't leave with like a great taste in their mouth. And everybody still really enjoyed it. So that was cool.
That's awesome.
yeah, and I mean, I think there are some variables that contribute to that. One of which is there was some really awesome moments in you guys' performance
Yeah.
that, you know, were had to contribute to like seeing the ability of the sport to have a positive impact on people. You know, regardless of a loss at the end of the day, but like winning a gridlock, or making it to a gridlock, I should say, was an incredible experience that had not happened to that point. So, you know, I think that, but also, you know, so much of our experience is hinged off of expectation, you know, and I think that tournament is no better demonstration of how we set our expectations is how the outcome is every single time. And so as a team owner, you know, I hope we take as league owner and as team owners, I hope we take a cue from that, because, you know, what is important when we play the sport? What is important when we go to have a match? And how do we want to be on the other side of this, knowing that we can't control everything that does happen? So I think that was a good kind of perspective opener in that regard as well.
So with us 4 seasons down, about to start the 5th season, right? What's been each of your just like favorite moment we've had so far, or maybe favorite part of what you've gotten out of grid? We're going to talk specifically about the Florida Grid League, not the MPGL or any of the experiences beforehand.
Ruby, you want to go first?
I don't know. Do you have something?
I would say, I don't think it's a one single moment, but it's kind of like a collective moment, and it happened in 2020. But it's when you know, social media just started taking off, and I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but it was complete verification that everything we knew is true as far as where the sport can go, the impact it can have on not just people who play it and interact with it, but people that watch it and appreciate it. So, you know, doing something like this is such a huge risk that when you have those moments of clarity and validation, it's super rewarding. And I would say, you know, we have like 26x the social media following from this past year that we did going into it, and so that kind of journey is probably what I would say.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the seeing and working with other people that get it and then want to learn and grow with us. So we've been working with Lindsay, our season director, since year one. She reached out and said, "Hey, this is cool. Can I help?" And I assigned her one spreadsheet, and she did it really well, which is very rare to find in people who want to help. And so she just kind of like kept growing her role. And when we had, when we needed somebody, because I was here and we needed somebody to run some matches, she stepped up and she was able to do it. And then she found some other people, and, people would drive from Tampa to Miami for every match because they felt such ownership of the matches and of the sport that they wanted to be involved with everything that they could to ensure the highest quality of an event. And that is something that I have been at every job I've ever had, and I think about like fine dining a lot, like going and having like 26 steps that you have to do for every table, and you're at a different step, at each table that you have, and you all have to be kind of a team and seamlessly working together. And, watching the NPGL have their equipment crew, and kind of like everything was really, we were on NBC right away. So like the refs and like everybody on the crew had to be like almost part of the entertainment themselves. It couldn't be like a crazy, everybody's running around not with their heads cut off kind of thing. It had to be seamless. And that's been, our goal from the very beginning of like creating that kind of experience for our staff, and then just watching that kind of come to fruition. Like we're working with 4 or 5 different interns now. So we've got like a crew of interns that we're working with. And we've got, Lindsay and Kathy and Tomas and Miguel and like all of these people that have been with us for years now. And
Kayla.
And Kayla, yeah, we're bringing on our first person full time to work with us essentially. Yeah, like we're growing our staff, our team, our like behind the scenes team so exponentially now. And that is the thing that gets me the most excited, because I mean, ever since, like I said, I hate having bosses. I don't like it at all because they never do things the way I think they should be done. And so I just, one of my goals since I was like early 20s is I want to be a boss where other people like enjoy working because I let them and like do things the way that, makes sense. And this is like kind of the realization of that dream is, one of my goals is to have this company be one of the top 10 or 100, I don't know, companies to work for by Fortune magazine. Like I want that to be named, we are a good company to work for. And so I don't know, it's just, that's really exciting. And it started, in 2016 when Lindsay started coming on, and it's just growing, and we're getting better as leaders, and people are growing within the organization, and it's really fun. That was my
dream. I love that. That like, so like as the owner of SharkBite, I love that. I resonate with that so strongly. The want to be somebody who people want to work for and work with. I totally understand that. That's awesome, guys. I'd say my favorite has been just like the people we've gotten to meet, the like the relationships that I wouldn't have if not for the Grid League. I talked about that on the podcast with Derek and Francisco, 2 of the players on our team. And we talked about how many friends we have now that we just literally never would have had otherwise,
Right.
Right. How many connections professionally and personally each of us have now that we can use and hopefully have for the next 20 years, and I didn't grow up playing sports, so I didn't have that naturally, to have that now feels awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, there's a level of respect, connection, appreciation that happens no matter the difference between you and somebody else in a journey like this. You know what I mean? And so, that can't be established in other ways, and you can fall back on that in so many ways when you need to in the future, so it's also a very rewarding thing as how I've grown from knowing people like you in the league and working with a common goal with people like you in the league, and then having, hearing about conversations that you've had with Courtney and other people that, have had impact on you and vice versa because of this league, and that's an awesome awesome thing.
Yeah.
Well, so now that we got emotional about the past, what about the season coming up, right? Season 5. There's some statistic I'm going to mess up where it's like X% don't make it to year 5 of anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it. It's happening. We're blowing that away right now. What are you guys most excited about for this season?
Being there.
Yeah, there we go.
No, I really, really, really am excited to come to an actual event, and you know, I'm gonna leave my kids at home, so I get to just focus on you know, doing what I feel like I do best, which is running events. Like, it's just so fun to be working with staff and to kind of, you know, make sure everything's going well, and then to also get to see the players and you know, it's going to be a really cool and exciting season because we have so much going on. Europa games to start off, and then, you know, we've got like double headers, and we're growing so much. Our sponsors are really cool. Like, I'm excited to keep announcing those because there's some really good ones. And yeah, that's what me personally, not what I'm excited for the company, but I just can't wait to come to a match.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I think we'll be able to support people that have been involved and are getting involved in a way that we've never done before. So financially, physically, you know, experientially, you know, the team owners, the players that have devoted their time and effort into playing the sport, the sponsors that have supported us for years, but also the new ones that are, you know, still not knowing what they're getting themselves into, but see something there and they know they need to be a part of it. You know, that just means so much to me that, and we talk about it all the time. It's like being able to provide value for being in the league for those people, I think is going to take a big step up this year through a lot of different channels. And part of it is shining a light on the players and the teams. Like, I just love that ability because there's so much incredible talent that the world is starting to recognize and see. Like, that's why we're growing on social media so fast as we are, because the players in this league are freaking incredible and people are like, wow. And so just doing more of that, you know, and shining a light on their abilities, getting more media out there into the world. And, you know, I really believe we'll be on a television network in 2022, maybe even the end of 2021. But we're having those conversations now, and you know, it could have even been before now if 2020 wasn't what it was. But I really believe that that's coming soon, and that really gets me excited because everything is in place there, and you know, we already know the potential of the players and the impact they can have on people. We're seeing it. It's a live thing. And when people become more and more aware of how the sport works and what it does and how important it is, it's only going to, you know, make the fan base grow as well for the players and for the teams. And that's what that gets me going.
The amount of comments that we get about people saying, you know, I'm inspired to go try this in the gym, and you know, like, you guys keep doing what you're doing because this is so inspiring and exciting, and like, that's so cool to see that people from around the world are watching the people play in our league, you know, and people are traveling from around the world in order to play in our league. It's just like, it blows my mind when I really think about it, because every day it's like we're just going along, we're playing the season just like any other time. But when you stop and think about where we are and how many people are watching now, it's incredible.
But I want to say, like, that is a really incredible thing, and that's 110% because of the players and what their ability to do, because people are recognizing that. They're seeing it, like, holy crap, that's amazing. And it's what a player can do. The only thing we are doing is giving them a vehicle to showcase what they can do, or not even giving, but it's like creating a structure for people to be able to see what they can do. And people love excellence. People love, you know, extreme ability, and the players in this league have abilities that are literally top in the world and play. And so, you know, that is an incredible thing to be able to showcase, and we're seeing the result of that. And, working it up the ladder of being more aware of the sport is like the secondary thing that we've got to do a good job of capturing. But, the fact that we've got more attention now is 100% of the players. And so it's important to recognize that, appreciate that, and continue to highlight that. And then just work on doing our job of letting the excellence of the sport itself shine as well.
So I told a couple of the players that I was going to ask, that I was going to have you guys on, right? And I got Mather a question for you that I thought was really interesting. So to be clear, this is from you can relax. It's not a bad one, I promise. So for some context, this is from a player who's been a player for many years and is still a player, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that made the question more interesting. What would you say to potential players who are scared because grid looks like too dangerous for them? Mm-hmm. Right. And especially talking to potential players from, say, like a CrossFit or weightlifting or track and field or gymnastics, or insert any other competitive athleticism background, right? Like what would you say to them if they think grid is too dangerous, because they are seeing things like Quentin doing backwards roll to supports, or Paola flying around on the rings of the bar, or they're seeing Noelle move a bar faster than should be humanly possible, right? Like what do you say to them?
I say, if you enjoy football, if you enjoy hang gliding, if you enjoy skateboarding, if you enjoy skiing, if you enjoy MMA, if you enjoy rugby, any of those sports are more dangerous than the sport of grid. And it's really, I've thought a lot about why people focus on these movements being performed quickly as quote unquote dangerous, when it's not really dangerous in the spectrum of sports whatsoever. In fact, it's probably in the bottom 5% of danger when it comes to sport. And I think personally, my own theory is that CrossFit has this reputation of being injury prone, but that has to do with training CrossFit over a long period of time as a person that's in fitness, right? So people want to scare people away because they think, snatches shouldn't be performed for time. You shouldn't be doing kipping pull-ups, 100 pull-ups in a workout. Okay, that's somebody's perspective. And then the way that CrossFit has been traditionally, which is not now, but traditionally they fight fire with fire. They come back with snarky comments and things like that. And it just exacerbates people that want to put CrossFit down. And so this generated this whirlwind of people, when they see a kipping pull-up, their immediate response is, that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's created a whole culture around any movement that remotely looks like anything that CrossFit does that's dangerous. And it even infiltrates CrossFitters, they have to defend why a kipping pull-up is a reasonable thing to do. And in competition, again, it's one of the safer things you can do in competition when you compare to other sports that are popular in the world. But a kipping pull-up, you defend that. And then so when we go and do something that's even crazier than a kipping pull-up, well, even CrossFitters like, wow, that might be dangerous. Okay, go tackle a 300-pound dude without a helmet and you're playing rugby, and that's, go get hit in the face repeatedly in MMA, get choked out in MMA, and then go tell me doing a kipping pull-up is dangerous. It's like, it's not, I'm not mad about it. Like, I get passionate about it because I think there's such a disconnect. There's such a disconnect in reality, but the way people are valuing it in their minds. And that's just a challenge that we have to overcome. It's like, sports, there's an inherent risk in sports. No matter what sport you play, when you do things fast, when you're searching for the peak of human capability, you're pushing your limits. That's the definition of sports. You're pushing your human limits, and that comes with risk. And the benefits that come from it are worth those risks for most people, and that's why they do it. And I know personally, I've taken risks. I've gotten injured. Wouldn't change it for the world. Some people get dramatic injuries, but when you talk about the risk of playing grid in the spectrum of sports, it's minuscule, and And so I think, that's like a passionate topic that I appreciate you asking, because when you look at it in those terms, it's a no-brainer. It's like, if I'm going to go compete in sports and do something that my body's naturally built for anyway, you're lifting weights because you're bigger and stronger. You're doing pull-ups because your body's more adapt to it, because grid rewards that. So it's literally, probably besides, curling, this one of the safer sports to play, honestly.
So the amount of passion you just got from that, I've had a similar reaction to that conversation. When I was in college, I had to do a research study on exactly that, on injury rates in CrossFit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of that, kipping looks dangerous mindset comes from a study that was by the NSCA that was proven untrue years later. It was completely falsified. There's been like a very expensive lawsuit ongoing and then settled, in which CrossFit made a lot of money off of the NSCA. Because they just falsified a study that is then like permeated into people's consciousness many years later,
Right.
And like you said, man, it's a sport. It's sport. You take a risk in sport.
Yeah. You got people, hanging off of the side of a cliff with no safety net, and that's their sport. A little bit higher risk than, doing a butterfly muscle up, a little bit. But, I think it's so funny because the way CrossFit has traditionally approached these situations has just made people feed fuel to the fire of like, they're going to fight. And I don't think, I think the new leadership is taking a little bit different approach, which I welcome, honestly. But I think the way they have in the past has just led to people creating like these CrossFit fails videos and like, just trying to demean the sport because they come off so, kind of like or they used to come off so like, just let us do our thing, respect, forget you, or like, combative rather than constructive.
Yeah, too cool for you when they shouldn't have been, when we were trying to teach people about a brand new thing. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. I think they're gonna like that answer, so that's good. So
good one.
Ruby, I was told by little birdie to ask you about your passion for dancing.
Okay.
And specifically your passion for teaching other people about dancing.
Okay.
So apparently you have a history with that?
Yeah. So I've been a dancer my whole life. It's like my number one thing I do. I don't even think about doing it. I just dance every day. Another huge difference between Mather and I. After college, I moved to California because I wanted to be a backup dancer for Britney Spears, and it didn't work out so well. So I came home after a year. But that's probably a little known fact about me.
I did not, and I'm so happy I know that
now. And then, so when I came back, this was like around the same time that Mather and I and our mom started working together. I thought a couple of friends asked me to teach them how to dance for their weddings. So, I didn't have experience with it. They just knew I knew how to dance. And so 2 different friends who were getting married a week apart asked me to teach them how to dance for their weddings. And so we were like, this could be something. And so since, we were a website design company, my mom and my brother designed a logo and a website, and we threw it up, and I really didn't market it that much. I put it up on like the knot.com or something like that. And over about 10 years, I grew it to be about probably like half of my income. I was teaching hundreds of couples a year, and I had really good feedback because I came at it from, a kind of, you go and learn a wedding dance and it's like, this is the most important thing of your whole day. And I took the opposite approach. It was like, this is just dancing, it's fine. But it was also kind of like therapy because, a couple learning how to dance, there's generally speaking one that is a little bit more anxious and, controlling. And there's one that's usually a little bit more, sure, whatever you say kind of person. And in dancing, it's usually the opposite. In traditional dance, the male is the lead, and the male has to tell the female what to do. And this is also true in gay couples that I have taught, that like in my experience. So learning to switch those roles I've had couples say that their entire relationship is different because they went through a couple of classes with me and learned how to communicate, not with like, talking at each other in a you're doing this wrong kind of way, but through a completely different language of, movement and body language and stuff. It's really, really cool. I got into it for a very long time. I kept doing it. We moved out to Downingtown, had a baby. I kept doing it for a little while. And beginning of the pandemic, I was just like, I got to take my website down. Like, I can't, I don't have time. I have to now get like childcare. It's a whole big thing just to have one class. But it's something I wish I could get back to someday, because it's really fun to watch people get it, to say like, oh, here's where the beat is. I'm going to learn where that is, and I'm going to move my feet to it. And then I'm going to like lead her to do it with me. And it's really cool. I love dance.
Well, obviously, yeah. one of the big beacons to look forward to at the upcoming Europa Games is apparently to catch Ruby dancing at every single match. I was told to make sure that we had camera on that constantly.
Marlone, my favorite DJ Marlone, always throws on some Britney for me, and that gets me going.
That's awesome. I'm so happy. I now know that you were doing Britney Spears backup dancing. That makes me happy in a way you can't understand. Okay.
To be clear, I didn't actually get to be Britney Spears' backup dancer. I just wanted to. And I do know all of her dances from like circa 2000. I know all of them still.
Well, Google, here we come. So, final question. Very important. Very important question. Mather. What's up with that lawnmower, bro?
You mean my manly lawnmower? Just choked on that a little bit.
Anyone who can't see.
Yeah, so I have what would be classified as the manliest lawnmower you've ever seen.
Children's lawn.
So, yeah, I like I try to be sustainable and also financially responsible. So I bought a very small lawnmower that's battery powered, and I look completely ridiculous when I use it because it's tiny. But it's not the only thing that makes me look completely ridiculous and then I'm fine with. So just roll with another thing. I actually like it. It gets the job done. And it serves all my objectives.
Just to give everybody a visual, he literally has to like bend over to mow the lawn.
Yeah, Briley sent me a video of it and I couldn't believe it was real.
Yeah, my neighbor who we didn't know at the time because we just moved, came over. He's like, it looks like there should be bubbles blowing out of that lawnmower. I'm like, yeah, there probably should.
It kind of looks like a baby's first shaving kit, but for lawnmowers. Oh man, guys, is there anything that you'd like to bring up that we didn't go over?
I guess like just real quick question for you. Being involved with the Florida Good League, you have a lot of your own serious ambitions. You own 3 gyms. I have an idea of where you want to go with that. And, we've talked about that before. That takes a lot of time and energy, and you have big vision, big goals. You want to support a lot of people. What makes you want to be involved with something that also takes a lot of time and effort and focus? And that's being in the sport of grid, when maybe not directly, at least on the surface, it doesn't contribute to your bigger goals with Shark Bite. But I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I don't know if I've ever told either of you this. So every year at the end of the season, I reevaluate that, right? Like after the hangover you talked about, I let that go away. And then I think, okay, does this still meet the goals that I need and want it to meet? Like, am I still bought into what I was when we had that first conversation, And every year the answer has been yes. And it's been yes because there's probably like emotional reasons and then logical reasons, right? Logically, it provides benefits that I probably couldn't get other ways, right? I get a professional network that is literally top tier. I mean, you guys, Alina, the other team owners, every ref that I become friends with, every player I become friends with, you know, you both know that I've hired people to run our gyms through this team. There are logical benefits to it, right? But then emotionally, man, it is just so much fun, you know, like it gets stressful just like anything that you're passionate about gets stressful, but it's fun. I look forward to this. This is a part of, you know, when I put my food on my plate, this takes up a spot. Like it and it's earned that spot because it's something that I feel like I gain intrinsic value from, you know. I'm a player now, full transparency. Don't think that's gonna last much longer. I've hit my peak and I'm on the way down. But that's like the least cool part of it, you know, the getting to be a part of all these other people, kind of like what you said, Ruby, who want to be a part of it and want to grow and want to learn and want to push it forward. Getting to be part of that is like a drug, you know, it's so much fun. It is so much fun and so fulfilling. So every year when I do my little reevaluation at the end of the season of like, okay, is this something I want to continue doing? I think the logical portion would have to get pretty damn low for that part to not outweigh it no matter what, you know? Yes, that's probably why.
That's awesome.
I don't think I've ever told either of you I do that before either. So, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked team owners before a similar question because everybody's driven, everybody's got lots of goals, and ourselves included. Like, you know, grid doesn't pay our bills. You know, just so everyone knows, grid does not pay our bills.
Yeah.
And so it has to fit into, you know, our lives. And I think, and so while all we talk about on things like this is the FGL, our lives are made up of a lot more than that. So we have to have that evaluation every year as well. And we had that evaluation when we went from the NPGL to the Florida Grid League. And what's interesting to me in your answer is none of it has to do with the significance of the sport in the future. And for me, that's a big driver. Like that's, but it's different for other people. So that's kind of what I was getting at. But I knew that about you after the conversations we were having, you know, I guess it was like 6 months ago when we were talking about like, where is the future of the sport going, you know? And that answer was very different amongst the team owners. And it was something that was surprising to me. So I love that answer because there's no better value than what you get right now. And you're getting enough right now, no matter what, to really benefit from it. And that's the way I feel too, but I'm also driven by what I see the future to be, you know what I mean, with the sport. So
right, if it's good now, it can only be much better as we go on, right? It can only be a higher return on that anyway. Right,
exactly. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for being a part of the league. It's been an awesome ride. Can't wait for much more.
Thank you to both of you, seriously, you know, for stuff outside of this podcast and for coming on this podcast. Thank you. I'm excited for the season. Real quick, Ruby, Mather, how would people find you if they wanted to? Nice.
On Instagram, FL Grid League.
There we go.
And then just, if you Google Florida Grid League, you can find it. Me personally, I'm Mather Wiz, METHERWIZ on Instagram. That's covers me basically. Ruby doesn't know her Instagram handle.
I think I'm Rubes Irene. Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
I have like 25 followers, so I don't post much. But I do like behind the scenes grid stuff sometimes. So if you're interested in grid, come follow me.
If somebody wanted to find out more about the Grid League, how would they contact the league? What's the
website? thefgl.com or floridagridleague.com.
Cool.
Yeah, and like anything, you know, interested in working with us, interested in just coming to the events, or like how to live stream or watch live streams or whatever, you know, we answer every single email. Somebody on the team will get back to you.
Cool beans. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank
It's been
you.
awesome. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks for hanging out with us today on the Shark Bite Show. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram at Shark Bite Fitness and Nutrition, or on our website at sharkbitefitness.com. If you'd like to find out more about our guests, their information will be in the show notes. If you'd like to talk to us about getting more fit, feel free to schedule a free no sweat intro at one of our locations in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, or Naples, Florida.